the gift nobody expected. The night was calm, yet something about it carried an invisible weight. The city lights flickered outside Keanu Reeves's quiet home, painting soft reflections across the large windows. Inside, the atmosphere was different. Still, almost too still. It was his birthday. But unlike the noise and laughter that usually filled such moments for others, Keanu sat alone at a wooden table with only a small cake in front of him. A single candle stood unlit, waiting. He had spent most of his life, giving to others, offering kindness wherever he went. But nights like these reminded him of the silence that followed fame. He wondered, not for the first time, if people celebrated him as a person or only the image they thought they knew. Suddenly there was a soft knock at the door. It was unexpected, gentle yet certain. Keanu paused, unsure if he had imagined it, until the sound came again, firmer this time. When he opened the door, his eyes softened instantly. Standing there was Ana de Armas, holding a small box wrapped in simple paper. No ribbon, no shine, nothing that screamed luxury, just something honest, something that already carried a mystery. "Happy birthday," she whispered with a small smile, her eyes brighter than the moonlight behind her. Keanu, caught off guard, tried to return her smile, but his throat tightened. He didn't expect anyone tonight, especially not her. Their friendship was something quiet, often hidden behind red carpets and cameras, but it was real. And real was rare in his world. Ana stepped inside and placed the box on the table. "Don't look at me like that," she said softly. "Just open it." Keanu sat back down, staring at the gift like it was more than paper and cardboard. He hesitated, his hands resting gently on top of it. The box was light, almost too light, and that made him curious. When he finally unwrapped it, what he found inside made his breath stop. It wasn't jewelry, it wasn't anything expensive. It was a small wooden chest, worn and old, like it had lived through 100 stories before finding its way to him. He opened the chest slowly, and inside were folded letters. Dozens of them. His heart raced as he pulled one out, unfolding the paper with trembling hands. The handwriting was familiar. Ana's. "These," she said quietly, her voice breaking the silence, "are letters I wrote over the years. Letters I never gave you. Some are about gratitude, some about things I noticed in you when no one else was watching, and some are just reminders of who you really are. Not the actor, not the star, but the man I respect." Keanu's chest tightened, his eyes already burning. He didn't read the words yet, but just knowing what they were was enough to break something inside him. People gave him gifts before. Cars, watches, things with price tags that never meant anything. But this was a piece of her heart, written slowly over time. He looked up at Ana, his voice low. "Why now? Why give me this tonight?" Ana's eyes softened. "Because you forget sometimes. You forget how much you mean to the people who see you for you, and I couldn't let another year pass without reminding you." The silence that followed was heavy, but warm. Keanu didn't move for a while. He just sat there, his hands on the letters, his eyes full of unspoken feelings. He had been strong in so many storms, calm when the world tested him. But in that moment, all his resilience broke into something raw, tears. They fell quietly, not with shame, but with gratitude. Ana didn't look away. Instead, she sat down beside him and placed her hand gently on his. No words, no explanations, only presence. And in that quiet, Keanu realized something he hadn't felt in years. He wasn't alone. Outside, the city kept moving, but inside that room, time seemed to stop. Two souls sat together, connected not by fame or stories written by others, but by truth, humility, and kindness. And the letters, still unopened, already promised a journey deeper than either of them could have predicted. The unopened letters, the night had stretched into silence. yet the small wooden chest on the table seemed to pulse with invisible energy. Keanu Reeves leaned back in his chair, his hands hovering above the stack of folded letters, as if touching them too quickly might shatter the fragile moment. He had faced action scenes, life's brutal losses and countless battles of the heart. But here, staring at handwritten pages from someone who saw him beyond the surface, he felt almost defenseless. Ana de Armas watched him carefully. She wasn't in a rush, wasn't demanding he read them right away. She simply sat there, her presence steady, her expression calm, though inside her heart pounded. She had debated for years whether to reveal these words. The thought that he might misunderstand, or that they might change the nature of their friendship, kept her silent. But tonight she had chosen courage over fear. Keanu finally broke the silence with a whisper. "I don't know if I can read them all tonight." Ana tilted her head, her lips curving slightly. "Then don't. Read one. Just one. The rest can wait." That suggestion carried both weight and suspense. One letter, one window into a part of their story he had never known. His fingers brushed the topmost letter, trembling slightly. The paper felt rough under his touch, as though it had been carried through time itself. When he unfolded it, the first words struck him like a storm. "You once stopped to help a stranger on the street when everyone else walked past. I watched from across the road. You didn't know I was there. You didn't know anyone saw. But I did. And in that moment, I realized your kindness is not for cameras. It's who you are." Keanu's throat tightened. He remembered the moment. Vaguely. An old man had dropped his groceries and everyone was too busy to help. Keanu had bent down, gathered the items, and carried them across. He hadn't thought twice about it. But now, reading Ana's words, he realized something shocking. Even the smallest actions were shaping how people truly saw him. Ana leaned forward, her eyes glistening. "Do you see? You didn't need to perform kindness. It was natural. It left a mark not just on that man's life, but on mine too." The emotional pull of her confession shook Keanu. His life was filled with noise, scripts, interviews, flashing lights. But this letter revealed the quiet truth. Who he was when no one was supposed to notice. He placed the letter down carefully, like it was fragile glass. "Ana, why didn't you tell me this sooner?" She hesitated, then answered softly. "Because I thought maybe you didn't need to hear it. But I realized something. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who most need to be reminded of their own light." Her words cut deeper than any silence could. Keanu thought about his past, the losses of his loved ones, the loneliness that trailed him despite fame, the way birthdays often felt like reminders of emptiness. He had mastered endurance, but rarely allowed himself comfort. Then came a twist he hadn't expected. Ana reached for the chest again, pulling out another letter, not to hand to him, but to open herself. "I wrote this one the night we finished filming our first project together," she said, her fingers steady despite the storm in her eyes. She unfolded it and began to read aloud. "Keanu, that night you stayed on set long after everyone left, picking up trash and helping the crew. You didn't need to. No one was watching. But I was. I realized then that greatness is not in leading roles or applause. It's in humility. I promised myself I would never forget the lesson you gave me without even knowing it." Keanu's heart pounded harder. Hearing her read her own words created a mirror. Her voice carried both admiration and quiet ache. "I don't—" Keanu struggled to speak, his voice cracking. "I don't deserve this." Ana looked directly at him, unwavering. "You do, and you need to accept it." A heavy silence followed. The letters had become more than words. They were proof of unseen chapters, reminders that even when he felt invisible, someone had always been watching with respect, not judgment. And yet, Beneath the warmth of this exchange, another suspenseful question lingered. How many letters were there? What else had she written? And what truths were waiting inside them? Anna seemed to sense his unspoken worry. Some of these letters hold joy, she admitted. But some, they might hurt. They are truths I saw in you, truths I couldn't say aloud. Keanu froze. The idea of reading words that might pierce through the armor he had built over decades was terrifying. He wasn't afraid of pain. He had known pain more intimately than most, but being seen so completely was another. Battle altogether? Ana touched the chest gently. But you need them. Not for me. For you. Sometimes we forget our own reflection until someone else shows us the mirror. The tension in the room thickened, wrapping around them both. Every unopened letter was now a mystery, a story that could either heal or break him further. The only question was, would Keanu have the strength to keep going? The letter that changed everything. Sometimes the smallest choices decide the heaviest moments. Keanu Reeves sat in silence, his fingers resting gently on the edge of the wooden chest, as though the weight of the letters could bend his entire life. He had faced scripts full of conflict, worlds of fiction where he played the unshakable hero, yet nothing prepared him for this. Real words written by a real friend, each letter carrying the potential to reopen wounds he thought had healed. Anna. The armas broke the silence, her voice calm but edged with something unspoken. Do you want to know the truth, Keanu? There is one letter in here that I almost burned. I wrote it late one night, and for years I thought it was too much, too raw. Maybe it's still too much. But it's here. Her words landed like a thunderclap. In his chest. One letter that she nearly destroyed. The thought pulled him in two directions at once. Fear of what it might say, and an aching need to know. Keanu's voice was barely a whisper. Why didn't you burn it? Anna held his gaze steady and unflinching. Because truth deserves to live, even if it hurts. The suspense tightened around them. The chest no longer looked like a gift. It looked like a key to doors he wasn't sure he wanted to open. Yet the very hesitation made him realize something deep. He was afraid of himself, not her words. He reached for another letter, not knowing if it would be the one she spoke of. The paper unfolded slowly, like a curtain lifting on a hidden stage. The first line pulled his heart into a storm. I saw the way you stood alone that night at the hotel lobby, while others laughed and celebrated upstairs. You thought nobody noticed, but I did. I saw the pain in your eyes, the pain of someone who gives endlessly but receives silence in return. Keanu closed his eyes, memory flooding back. Years ago, after a film premiere, everyone had gone to the after party. He had walked through the lobby, chosen not to join, and instead sat alone with a cup of coffee. It wasn't loneliness he feared then. It was emptiness. He never thought anyone noticed. But Anna had. Her voice broke the moment. I wasn't brave enough to sit with you that night. I should have. And that regret followed me until I wrote this letter. Keanu's throat tightened. Anna, you don't owe me that. Maybe not, she whispered, but I owed myself the honesty of admitting it. For a moment, the air grew heavy with the ghosts of all the times people had passed him by, mistaking his silence for strength. Yet in that weight, something new emerged. Validation. He wasn't invisible. Anna reached for the chest again, her hands trembling this time. She pulled out another folded paper, and her voice shook. This is the one I almost burned. Keanu's chest constricted. The suspense stretched like a wire about to snap. She opened it carefully and began to read aloud. Keanu, you taught me that kindness can be quiet, but sometimes I wish you would let yourself be loved as loudly as you love others. I see the way you hide behind gentle smiles and long pauses. I see the way you downplay your own worth. And it breaks me. Because you deserve more than silence. You deserve to be reminded that your existence itself is a gift. Her voice cracked on the last word, and for the first time that night, her own tears welled. She folded the letter back, her hands trembling. Keanu sat motionless, the words drilling deep into the spaces he never allowed anyone to touch. He wanted to respond, to tell her what it meant, but his voice failed him. All he could do was lower his head, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to cry without resistance. Anna placed her hand gently on his arm. No speeches, no explanations, just presence. It was enough. But then in the stillness, something unexpected happened. Keanu whispered, his voice hoarse but firm. "I want to read the rest, all of them, no matter how much they hurt." Anna's eyes widened. "Are you sure? Once you open them, you can't go back. Every word will live inside you." Keanu looked at her with a depth that silenced the moment. "I've lived long enough with silence. I'd rather live with truth." The letters now held more than stories. They had become a map of hidden memories, regrets, and unseen kindness. And as Keanu prepared to dive deeper, he knew the journey ahead would not only uncover who he had been, but who he was still meant to become. The truths between the lines, sometimes, silence is heavier than words. The small wooden chest sat open on the table, letters stacked neatly inside. Yet every folded page seemed alive, like they were breathing, waiting, daring to be opened. Keanu Reeves stared at them, his heart thundering. He had chosen truth over silence, but truth has its own price. Ana de Armas broke the silence first. Her eyes searched his face with care. "Before you open the next one, you should know something. These letters aren't just about you. Some of them, they're about me too." Keanu tilted his head slightly, unsure. "About you?" Anna nodded. "Writing them wasn't just about honoring you. Sometimes they were my only way to process my own fears. You became the mirror I didn't know I needed." The words hung heavy in the air. The gift he thought was simply a reflection of himself had layers, layers that carried pieces of her soul too. That revelation alone became a new hook, pulling the moment into dangerous emotional territory. He reached for the next letter, his hands trembling as though they already knew the weight it carried. When he unfolded it, the ink was slightly smudged, as if written in haste, or maybe in tears. "Keanu, people call you strong because you carry pain quietly, but I wonder if anyone ever asks how heavy it feels. I've learned something from you. That strength is not hiding suffering. It's walking with it. But there were nights I envied your calm, because I was breaking inside, and I wished I could borrow your silence." Keanu's breath hitched. He hadn't expected her words to shift focus so deeply. These weren't just admiration, they were confessions. Anna lowered her gaze, her voice unsteady. "I was drowning during those years. The spotlight looked bright, but inside I felt small, weak, like I didn't belong. Watching you stay grounded when life tried to break you, it gave me hope. You didn't know it, but you were teaching me how to survive." A deep silence filled the room. Keanu leaned back, his chest tightening, not from the pain of hearing her words, but from the responsibility he never knew he carried. Unknowingly, his own resilience had been a lifeline for her. He folded the letter slowly, placing it back with care. "Anna, I never wanted to be anyone's example. I was just trying to breathe." She smiled faintly, though her eyes glistened. "And that was enough. Sometimes just surviving is the greatest lesson we can give." Keanu reached for another letter, the suspense growing heavier. The next page was thicker, the handwriting firmer. "I once saw you refuse to take credit for something you did. It made me angry, not because of humility, but because I realized you believe too little of yourself. You carry guilt for things not your fault, and gratitude for things you've more than earned. Keanu, Why do you think you deserve less than others? The question hit like a blade. His fingers trembled as he reread the line. All his life he had lived quietly, preferring to give rather than take. But now, seeing it reflected in her words, he realized it wasn't always humility. It was doubt. Anna's voice cut through the tension, soft but piercing. She's right, isn't she? You never think you deserve the good things that come your way. His throat tightened. He tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, his silence confirmed what her letters already knew. Anna leaned closer, her tone gentle but firm. Keanu, resilience isn't about denying yourself joy. It's about allowing yourself to accept it when it finally comes. The air between them grew sharp with vulnerability. Keanu lowered his head, realizing the letters were not just revealing who he was, but also stripping away the walls he had built to protect himself. Then came another twist. As he reached for the next letter, Anna stopped him, her hand gently pressing over his. Not that one. Not yet. Keanu looked at her with curiosity. Why? Anna hesitated, her voice trembling. Because that letter doesn't just hold truths about you. It holds something about us. The words froze him. A quiet storm gathered in his chest. All night he thought this was about him, his kindness, his humility, his unseen struggles. But now the possibility of them. Something shared, something unspoken, rose to the surface. The unopened letter lay between them like a secret, waiting to change everything. The letter about us, the room was quiet, yet the silence felt alive, thick, pulsing, almost unbearable. Keanu Reeves kept his hand resting on the chest of letters, but now his fingers froze above one folded page Ana de Armas had warned him about. Her words echoed in his mind. This letter doesn't just hold truths about you. It holds something about us. The word us cut through the air like a secret waiting years to breathe. Keanu looked at Anna, his voice low but steady. If this letter changes everything, do you really want me to open it? Anna didn't answer right away. Her eyes shifted, full of hesitation, yet something deeper, relief. The truth already lies between us, Keanu. The letter only gives it a voice. That was the hook, the moment where the audience leans closer, needing to know what could possibly be written on paper that both terrified and freed her. Slowly, Keanu picked up the letter. It felt different, heavier, not because of weight, but because of what it promised. The paper was creased more than the others, as if it had been read and reread by the one who wrote it. He unfolded it carefully, and his eyes fell on the first line. Keanu, there were nights I wished I could tell you this face to face, but words failed me. So I wrote them here, where my honesty could survive. You think of yourself as a shadow moving quietly through life, but to me, you were light. You became the safe place I never thought I would find in this world. His chest tightened instantly. Each word was pulling him closer to a truth he never dared to consider. Anna looked down, her hands clasped tightly together, while he continued to read. You showed me kindness without asking anything in return. You respected me in a way that reminded me of my worth, especially when the world tried to reduce me to less. You didn't know it, but your presence became my anchor. I feared telling you this because I didn't want to lose the friendship that saved me, but the truth is simple. I cared for you in ways deeper than I ever admitted. Keanu froze. His breath caught. The letter wasn't just admiration, it was confession. The air felt sharper now, charged with something fragile. He placed the letter down carefully, afraid even the sound of paper might break the moment. His voice cracked as he whispered, Anna, is this real? Is this how you've always felt? Her eyes met his finally, steady yet glistening with unshed tears. Yes, but I never wanted to burden you. You've carried enough. I thought keeping it inside was safer, for both of us. The weight of her honesty pressed into the room, and for the first time that night, Keanu didn't feel like the only one exposed. She, too, was laying her heart bare, trembling beneath the courage it took to finally speak. He leaned back, his mind a storm. All these years, through films, through public moments, through quiet silences, had there been something unspoken shaping their connection? He thought of the countless times her smile had lingered just a little too long, or the way her presence always felt like calm instead of noise. But even now, with the truth before him, he couldn't ignore the fear clawing at his chest. What if this changed everything? What if the fragile bond that kept him grounded shattered under the weight of deeper meaning? Anna seemed to sense his thoughts. Don't answer now. The letter wasn't written to demand anything. It was written so you would finally know. The vulnerability in her voice pierced him. This wasn't about forcing a future. It was about freeing the past. He lowered his head, his voice trembling but honest. Anna, I don't know if I deserve that kind of place in your heart. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his hand. This isn't about deserving. It's about being seen. And Keanu, you have been seen. Truly seen. Suspense thickened again. For the first time all night, Keanu wasn't sure whether to move forward or retreat into the safety of silence. Yet the truth inside him, the truth he had buried beneath years of restraint, began to stir. The chest of letters still held dozens of unopened pages, stories, confessions, hidden reflections, all waiting, but none of them carried the same weight as this one. This was no longer just about kindness or humility. This was about love, quiet, unspoken, resilient love. As Keanu sat with the letter in front of him, his heart whispered what his voice could not. Maybe this gift was never about receiving, but about awakening. The answer unspoken, the night had stretched into something timeless, as if the walls themselves held their breath. The wooden chest sat open, letters scattered across the table like fragile pieces of two souls laid bare. Keanu Reeves sat in silence, his hand resting over the last letter he had read, the one that revealed truths about them, truths too heavy, too tender, and too real to ignore. The hook was clear. What would he do now, standing at the edge of honesty that could change their bond forever? Ana de Armas sat across from him, her face calm, but her eyes flickering with fear. She had revealed her heart in words written long ago, and now, every second of silence from him stretched like an eternity. She had expected rejection, maybe hesitation, maybe gratitude without reciprocation. But she hadn't expected this long-waited quiet. Finally, Keanu broke it. His voice was low, careful, trembling under the weight of truth. All my life, I've known how to give, to help, to carry, but I never knew how to receive. Tonight, reading your words, I realize maybe that's been my greatest weakness. Anna's breath caught. She leaned forward slightly, listening with her whole being. He looked down at the letter again, then back at her. You said I've been your anchor. But Anna, what you don't see is that you've been mine too, in ways you'll never fully understand. Her eyes widened, her lips parting slightly. For a moment, the quiet between them was louder than any confession could ever be. Keanu continued, his voice shaking. I never believed I deserved to be anyone's light. I thought my role in this world was to pass kindness along, not to be held on to. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe being seen, truly seen, is the greatest gift someone can give. And you gave me that tonight. Anna blinked rapidly, her tears falling silently. He reached for the chest, gathering the letters gently as if they were sacred. These pages, they're not just reminders of who I am. They're pieces of you. Your courage, your fears, your love. This gift isn't about me. It's about us. About two people who found each other in the noise of this world and chose to see the truth instead of the illusion. Anna covered her mouth with her hand, her heart pounding. Then, in a moment that felt like the culmination of years, Keanu reached across the table and held her hand firmly. His grip wasn't desperate, but steady, like an anchor meeting its chain. "Anna," he whispered, his voice raw, "I can't promise perfection. I can't promise I'll always know how to handle this. But what I can promise is honesty. If you were brave enough to write these letters, then I will be brave enough to live their truth." Her tears spilled freely now. She squeezed his hand, her voice breaking. "That's all I ever wanted, Keanu. Not promises, not perfection, just truth." And with that, the suspense melted into something softer, something powerful. Acceptance. They didn't need more words. The letters had already spoken for them. The rest of the night passed quietly, with pages unfolding one by one, not as confessions, but as bridges. Laughter came in small waves, tears in heavier ones, and silence in the most precious moments of all. By the time dawn broke, the letters were no longer just a gift. They had become a map of two lives, tangled not by fame or circumstance, but by kindness, resilience, and love, too humble to shout, but too strong to be denied. The final twist was simple yet profound. The gift that brought tears to his eyes was never about the letters themselves. It was about the courage to see and be seen. And that, Keanu realized, was the greatest act of kindness he had ever received. Outside, the world began its noise again. Cameras, headlines, schedules, all waiting. But inside that quiet room, something unshakable had been born. Not a performance, not a story for the public, but a truth for two hearts alone. And as Keanu folded the last letter, he whispered words that would echo long after. "Thank you for reminding me I'm not alone." Anna smiled through her tears, her voice soft but steady. "You never were."